when you coming to Baton Rouge?
You know, it's been done in Baton Rouge. Actually, I think it was last year. And I hear about these productions. This play has been published by Dramatic Publishing Company, and they have a website. And I also have a website, ShayYoungblood.com. You can keep up with the Shakin, but you go to that website and it'll say, like, I went and I saw, oh, they're doing a production in Manassas, Virginia. Oh, they're doing a production in Baton Rouge. That's how I find out. People don't necessarily come to me and say, can I do your play? They go to the publishing company. And so I might hear about it a year later or hear about it the day it's happening. I moved to North Texas, and I happened to begin a relationship with Jubilee Theater. When Ed Smith was here, he invited me to the opening night of The Bluest Eye. And then so you have to come see all the shows, and we began a relationship, and he proposed that Jubilee do Shakin' the Mess Out of Misery. And so they asked me if I would come around this week. I've been to high schools to talk to young people about getting involved in the theater. And so that's how I came to be here and be available. And it's a wonderful opportunity for me. I guess that I love it. I don't get to hear about them as often as I'd like to, but ask them to bring it back to Baton Rouge. I'll come. And then tell them to call me.
Okay.
I'll go. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah, I'm from Baton Rouge, so that's my daughter on the end.
All right.
It's very great. I was in the military for 25 years. I've been all over France, Egypt. I've been to many different countries, and I remember her saying she wanted to be an Egyptian when I went to Egypt. It was beautiful. I seen a lot, soon to be 6, but I couldn't believe it was awesome. All the things that you told was actually real. I had an opportunity to see it in the military around the world.
It was so, I'm sorry.
Excellent.
I was gonna say, it was so funny when we were in rehearsals and they were talking about the snuff. We were talking about what kind of grease to get for the Corinne's beauty shop. And we started talking about Dog Mane and Blue Magic and all the different kinds. And that brought back so many memories. And then I'd be doggone, this one didn't go and put some Frenchies in her hair. And all I could smell coming to the theater one day was just Frenchies all through the car. I was like, oh Lord, I'm back in Grandma's kitchen getting my hair pressed.
And I do have 4 daughters also. That's like 30 That was beautiful.
You did a beautiful job. Well, and speaking of big daddies, people ask me where are the men in the play, and you hear about some of them, but you don't hear about all of them. Just the oldest one. You hear about a lot of them, but then there are many more. I was raised in a house where with my grandfather and uncles who were coming in and out, and I was just very selective. We really wanted to tell a story about the women. I think that's a whole other play with the big daddies in there, because they exist. They were very important to me in my life, and I do want to honor them, but it's like I want to tell these women's stories. And after Shakin' the Mess Out of Misery came out, I decided that I didn't want to do Shakin' the Mess 2. I wanted that there are many stories that I wanted to tell. People kept saying, why don't you do another one, another Big Mama play or Big Daddy play? And it's like, well, there are a lot of things, actually there are things I wanted to learn, how to write a play. This guy came through the back, I cut and pasted these little stories, and I got, and had these wonderful, amazing people that I learned from. I brought the stories to the table. You would be reading a book if it weren't for these women. There'd be a book on the stage, y'all pass through, and y'all pass around the room. Not very interesting, is it? So, I really appreciated all the things that I learned from working on that first production, that collaboration. So I went, the little bit of money that I made, I went to graduate school. I went back to school to learn the craft of playwriting. And while I was in graduate school, not only did I learn about playwriting, but I also learned about filmmaking and videography, and decided that I wanted to write novels. I wrote 2 novels, and then started making paintings. And then, again, I thought I could do anything. I felt like I could brave enough to do anything. But it's been an amazing adventure. Working, this particular production has, allowed me to do many things. I traveled to Sweden, and a friend of mine, she's working on a biography. She's been working on this biography of Lorraine Hansberry for, over 20 years. She's probably still working on it, but she read Shakin' the Mess Out of Misery, and she said, we should do a Swedish production. They did in Sweden, they did an all Swedish, and I do mean Swedish people, production of Raisin in the Sun. Yeah, just imagine. I planned to do Shakin', I was like, okay. There's a mess in every place.
think to my father's credit, I get my storytelling skills because my father was a very outgoing person. He loved to have company and he loved to tell stories. So I will say there is a father in the midst. I just didn't talk about it, but he's there.
They're there. There's plenty of stories to tell.
One last-
Bernie Steve, one last question.
Yeah,
Bernie Steve.
actually two. Miss May, I could tell you were like completely in it because you came out wiping your eyes. So I was like, yeah, she was deep, deep, deep. But what I think is the genius of the timelessness of what you produce is when you think now of how young women are taught to be competitive with each other. And it's all the visuals, all the images, everything's always zero sum. You lose, you win. It's all about competition. And what I thought was so beautiful about this is everybody had space. And you could tell somebody would get on somebody else's nerve, but there was still love and there was space and each one had a gift. And so the nuance and the complexity and the layers of this played exactly against the muddier image stereotype. And so for me, as I was sitting there watching that, I was just thinking, in fact, I texted 3 of my 20-something friends and said, y'all need to come and you need to come together. Because they can all relate to this in so many different ways. And they're young, they're struggling in the sense of trying to figure out who they want to be, but all 3 of them are really, really good friends. They love women in this way. And so this whole thing of being able to see women loving each other, for me was just, it's like, you know, well, no, that's my comment. I don't, he wants to know if I have a question.
Well, see, one of the things I loved about it was, you know, when La Mama and May get into it, and I love this about it in the script the first time I read it, and, well, when we started rehearsing really, is that even though La Mama is mad at May for being with her man,
Right.
when May is in trouble and she has that tumor,
Yeah.
La Mama does not hesitate to pray for her and be there for her, even though she ticked at her.
Right.
You know, I'm still gonna be down for
Right.
it. So I love that about it because it shows people that, yeah, you can be mad at somebody, but when somebody needs you, you can still be there for them.
Yeah, and his money was no longer interesting to me after I found he ain't been buying groceries. I can't do that.
You can't feed my girl, I can't miss what you did.
Well, thank you all again for being
Thank
here. I
you.
really appreciate it. If you love it, tell me.